We're going to get started in another 2 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for our Cultivating Your Community and Growing a Network of Support workshop, a part of our Miami-Dade County virtual workshop series. So the series will be recorded and in a future date will be posted on our YouTube page and put on our website. So I will, once we get everything uploaded, I will send this out to all that have registered for this workshop. Everyone's audio and video have been turned off, and you can use the chat box in order to make comments and to ask questions. So without further ado, I want to introduce our certified peer support specialist and parent peer support specialist, Olika Parker.
Hi, everyone. Today we're here to talk about cultivating our community and growing a network of support. And the reason that this is so important and why it matters is it's an essential part of mental health recovery and understanding. So, today we're going to learn to understand community and why community helps healing. We're going to talk about identifying some of our support people in your own life. And we're going to learn some strategies to build and maintain support systems. And then we're going to explore some Dane County resources also. Um, just, everybody else has their own journey. But just remember that you don't have to walk alone on your mental health journey. So, thank you guys for being here. Just remember that you're in a safe, supportive space. You'll have recordings of this, so feel free to do what you need to do to take care of yourself during this. If you need help in the moment, please go in the chat and let somebody know. We are here for you. So, a little bit about me. I'm a certified parent peer support and a certified peer support. I have lived experience with mental health and recovery. I've parented a child with mental health issues. I've utilized Dane County Human Services CCS program, which is their comprehensive community service program. The program saved my life. I'm also really passionate about community healing. The CCS program through Dane County Human Services is a really neat program that I'll share a little bit more about in a little bit. So the workshop purpose is we're going to talk about why support networks matter. We're going to identify some supports, whether they're community supports, personal supports, professional supports, all different supports. We're going to talk about how to build and maintain a support support system. And then I'm gonna share some resources, some Dane County resources and area resources. So let's get started by just grounding ourselves, wherever you're at. Kind of feel your seat wherever you're sitting. Maybe close your eyes, look down. I want you to take 2 deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Now, I'd like you, you can drop it in the chat. I'd like you to name one thing you'd like to get out of tonight. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can drop it in the chat and Quinn will share them with us. So, why does support matter? Support, um, it's healing, and healing isn't meant to be done alone. So, that's one thing. Support is helps increase stability. It helps take away stigma. It helps you have an emotional balance. It can provide safety in your life. And community can help us, whether we're having housing problems, crisis moments with our mental health, if there's parenting stress, substance use recovery. Support really matters because it makes us feel safe. It helps us navigate crises. It helps us not, or it reduces isolation so that we're connecting with people during times in our lives when we need to most. It also helps improve our mental health. So, part of being a certified parent peer support and a certified peer support is the fact that I have lived experience. I myself have lived with mental illness since I was a teenager. My first attempt at my life was when I was 16 years old. I've had many attempts since then, but not in many years since I've found recovery. Probably about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. At that time, 4.5 years ago, I was managing my daughter's mental health at the same time. And we were transitioning from a crisis program into the CCS program for her. And I'd never thought about the program for myself, until one day my therapist says, well, I can also provide services to you through CCS. Have you thought about that? I think the program would suit you really well right now. And I was dealing with grief. I was dealing with substance use. I was dealing with a lot of trauma. Um, and so I applied for the Comprehensive Community Services Program. What this program is it's a program through your county. So any counties provide this, most counties provide this program. Sauk, Columbia, and Richland all have CCS programs. The programs also Dane County. The program is a program of integrated support. The program believes that through multiple services, we can improve somebody's mental health or substance use. I started the program before I was even sober. I was in it for quite a few months before I even got sober. After going to residential treatment, which was able to be set up through the program, I was then able to get out of residential treatment and utilize so many services through the CCS program that's how I lived my recovery for many months. I had physical health services in the way of a physical trainer. I had yoga therapy, both group and one on one. I had a substance use counselor. I had a regular counselor. Some of the services my daughter has used has been art therapy. She's been doing equestrian therapy for over 9 years. The program has saved our lives. It helped guide me through my recovery, and it was really important. My daughter's still part of the program. Because of the community that those integrated services provided me, they provided me with peer support with different groups. My peer support introduced me to communities that I maybe wouldn't have thought to become part of. And so it was really an important part of my recovery. So now we're going to talk about like what counts as support. I want you to think about who are some of the people that support you. Um, Even if it's in small ways, it doesn't have to be financially, it doesn't have to be somebody that's there all the time for you. Just think about what support looks like. Um, but there are multiple different types of support networks. The first one we're going to talk about tonight is going to be personal support. And some examples are your family, whether it's your chosen family or not, friends, partners, supportive neighbors, faith community, peers, friends like that. Why does personal support matter? The reason it matters is because these people know you better than anybody else. They can notice early changes in your mood or behavior. They might see something before you even see it. A lot of times, these personal supports are a safe person to us. They're easier to talk to sit with, to just be present with sometimes during those hard days. Um, and sometimes they're the people that help us with our everyday life, whatever that looks like in your life, and they can help you reduce stress in your life by helping focusing on assisting you with everyday life. Um, they're also usually very encouraging. They remind you that you're not alone. Um, a lot of times, because they're people close to you, you don't see as much stigma involved in the relationship. Um, Many local programs encourage involvement with your natural supports. It's really important in your recovery plan because those are the strongest networks you have around you, and they'll most likely be around you long term. Another type of support is peer support. Um, Peer support looks like getting support with people that have lived experience. Peer support was a game changer for me and is for many people. Um, a peer is someone who has shared something similar and they get it kind of more. Um, Peers help you feel safe. They walk alongside you. They share their lived experience. Peers don't judge. There's no stigma in that relationship whatsoever. And they sit with you and they listen. Some of the places that you can find peer supports are through the CCS program, through Miami-Dade County provides peer support. We have two different peer supports. Um, Miami-Dade County has wonderful peer groups, whether it's family groups or peer groups. Parent peer support is provided through CCS and also through other programs and through Miami-Dade County. Um, there is a warm line through Journey Mental Health that has peer supports there to talk you through and share their lived experience with you. Um, it's people who have walked the same path and before and want to share what's worked for them with you. So, why does peer support matter? Peer support provides hope. It shows people like what's possible. Like, wow, look at where they're at. I could be there soon someday. Um, it's also a really non-judgmental, like I said, relationship. There's no stigma. Um, it's open and it's really relatable because you have both have similar lived experience. Um, Peer specialists also help you navigate systems because they've been there before. They've navigated those systems, like how to get into programs like CCS or how to navigate their own insurance systems. Um, I model coping skills and boundaries for my peers. I model healthy communication and self advocacy. Um, I share with them what's worked with me in those skills. Um, I also help reduce the shame and the stigma that comes along with feeling like you're the only person this has happened to, or you're the only person that's ever felt that way. Um, there's peers in many county service teams through Dane County Human Services, um, because they really truly improve the outcomes and engagement um, for people when they're in mental health crisis or dealing with mental health recovery. Another type of support would be professional support. And in the CCS program or other programs, that looks like a case manager and then the team underneath your case. It can be therapists, it can be crisis workers, it can be your primary care doctor. Some schools can help parents navigate through um, different systems and programs. So, why does it matter to have professional help as part of your community? Um, the reason professional help matters is it really provides that structure, that evidence based treatment for whatever you're going through. And that's a really big part of your plan. It helps you make those plans also, it helps you make goals. Um, a lot of times, if medication is involved, um, that needs to be managed by a professional, whether it's your primary care doctor or a different doctor. Um, Professionals usually are available for crisis stabilization and to prevent hospitalizations. They're also there for hospitalizations if that's what's needed. Sometimes that's what's needed. Um, Professionals also help maintain accountability and help monitor your progress in your recovery. Um, Professionals can be that support anchor and that kind of anchors the other support systems that you have in your community. Um, and it can really help keep your recovery on track. So the next type of support would be community supports, and these are some Dane County community supports. There are also there's also the Beacon that has day services. We provide some services there. Um, there's multiple behavioral health services throughout Dane County. Um, there's UW Health Behavioral Health Services. And one thing we don't think of when we think of community sport is community centers and other type of group settings like that, whether it's a 12-step program or a church program. The reason community support is so important is it allows you to feel like belonging, purpose, connection to a group other than yourself, which also then leads to reduced isolation, which is super important when we're dealing with, mental health. Um, it's also a really like low key way to just be around people, but without the pressure or, and because there's usually a connection in some way, you're able to not feel the pressure of being in other large group settings. Um, it also helps with negative people in your life and negative environments, which is really important in recovery from substance use disorder. Um, it also really encourages skill building, whether it's volunteering, whether whatever meaningful role you take in these community organizations. Um, it's really where your recovery part becomes part of every day. Um, it's not something you do because you have to, because it's an appointment. It's something you do because you want to. So, how do these support systems all work together? Well, personal support makes you feel cared for. It also gives you that extra feeling of sometimes when we're in a mental health crisis, we can't care for ourselves, um, or we don't like ourselves. And so that personal support can be really helpful for that reason. Peer support is important because it helps you feel understood. You're communicating with and getting supported by somebody that has lived through it before, which is so important. And professional support is there to give you skills, to teach you, to keep you safe and keep you stabilized. And community support really just keeps you involved and connected. And for me, it really helps me grow. Doing different things in the community help me grow my circle of support when it comes to my personal support. So all of these work together. Together, they create a circle of support that really help people not just strive, but thrive. Whether you're living with mental health challenges, substance use disorder, when you have these multiple things working together, it really helps with how fast recovery can come, or at least it did for me. And I was able to have all these support networks work together because I was given the opportunity to be part of the Dane County Human Services Comprehensive Community Services Program. And that was really helpful. There's lots of programs through Dane County that are available. So the next thing we're going to do, everybody wants to kind of stretch a little. Um, so we're going to talk about our your own very own support systems. So we're going to do an activity, and you can do it now. You can come back to it in the recording, however you want to do it. But it's a really neat way to see where things fall in your life. So we're going to draw a tree, and the tree is going to represent our support tree. And so we're going to start with the roots of the tree, and those are going to be your foundational supports. Those foundational supports could be um, crisis, they could be doctors, therapists, case managers. A lot of those professional people sometimes are that foundational support. Um, it could be those people in your life that are um, really foundational to your support. So you can write them down, you can think of them in your head. Um, the next part we're going to draw is the trunk. And I know this sounds really interesting, but the trunk that holds everything up is you. And it's your personal strengths and your survival skills. And if you're in recovery for mental health, some of those survival skills are not always positive skills, but they're survival skills. So you can put them down even if they aren't positive. The next thing you're going to draw are the branches, and each branch are the supportive people in your life. So, family, friends, any of those people. And then the last part of our support tree is supports that you want to grow. Whether maybe you need to grow your peer support team, or maybe you need to grow your professional team, or maybe it's community that you need to grow. No tree's too small, um, but just also looking and seeing that you're not alone. When you look at this, it really shows that community of support. So, how do we build this community of support? Because for a lot of us, it's new, it's challenging, um, especially if you are dealing with substance use disorder, you're walking away from a lot of people you were around. So now you're building new communities and new supports. So, really starting small, asking for help, um, whether it's asking those close to you for help, whether it's calling the day at your county human service behavioral health resource center and asking for help, whether it's asking somebody if they can just help you with one thing. And sometimes the hardest part is really letting somebody around you know that you're having a really hard time. Sometimes admitting that we need support or that we're having a hard time is one of the hardest things. Another really important thing when building this support up in our lives um, is showing up authentically. And that used to feel really uncomfortable with me. I just had a conversation today with a peer about like how important that is in recovery, especially like substance use recovery. And being authentic doesn't mean I need to tell my whole story or share everything. Um, but it's being honest, it's building trust, it's being authentically who I am right now. Um, and that's a really important thing to do when you're building this community around you. You have to let people see who you are. You don't have to let them see every part of you, but let them see the real parts of you. Another important way to build this community that we're trying to build, to cultivate this community around us of support that we all deserve, is to attend community spaces, attend support groups, whether virtual or in person. NAMI has some great support groups. Um, there's other types of support groups, whether it's 12-step support groups. Get out in your community, navigate different resource centers, see what they have um, for different things that can help you. Different community centers have different resources. Check out what's in your neighborhood. Look for different peer run groups. NAMI has some great education peer run groups. Um, all of our support groups are also peer ran. Um, there's some other great peer ran groups throughout the area that you can look into. And there's different groups, different skills training. There's crafting that you can go to. That's really fun to do sometimes. Um, just getting out in the community and going to the a holiday sing along downtown, something like that. Just getting out in the community is so important. Um, it really helps grow those connections when you show up regularly in your community. Another really important part of building this community that we're cultivating is boundaries. And boundaries are hard. I'm going to be honest. It's a learning, continuous learning is what boundaries are in my mind. Um, and boundaries are continuously evolving too, usually in relationships. But just remember, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to rest when you need rest. You're allowed to step away and you're allowed to protect your energy. Those are extremely important boundaries, but you're also allowed to set up other boundaries when cultivating this community that you want to help you, support you. Another really important thing, and I know from past experience, it's not always easy and it's not always something we want to do. And sometimes we're just not able to also, but trying to ask for help before crisis comes. Um, I think that's really important. Asking, help me if you notice these things, help me before I get to this point. Um, letting some of those people that you're allowing into this community know what your safety plan is or know what behavior looks like when you're starting to get in a depressive um, mood or state. Also, reach out when things are starting, before they're at their crisis moment can really help. Like I said before, though, reaching out can be extremely hard to do. Um, it's not always easy, but if you can, asking for help can really help in cultivating this community that we're cultivating around us. So, these relationships tend to kind of be like a garden. And so, what do you need for a garden? You need to grow your garden. And so, in growing our community, there's certain things we need to grow that community. And it kind of correlates with the garden. So, by watering our garden, we need regular check ins with our communities, whether it's our professionals, our family, any of those people in our life that are important. It's important that we have regular check ins. Next is sunlight is part of a garden. The sun is pure. The sunlight equals honesty. In our To be able to grow these communities, we need honesty. And honesty isn't always easy. Then it builds trust. And that's really important in these communities. The next thing that's really important in a garden is making sure you weed your garden. And when we're growing these communities, sometimes means that we're throwing out weeds, and that means that we're removing unhealthy people or unhealthy things from our lives. And that's really important in cultivating this community that we're looking at. So, we're going to go over some different Dane County resources. Um, NAMI Dane County's resource guide is on our website. There's a link there. We have resources for all different types of services. Our peer supports also help you walk along with you if you need help navigating any services. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the CCS program, which is the Comprehensive Community Services Program. Like I said, that program basically saved my life. And my daughter's still part of it. It's helping her navigate young adulthood at 18, and it gives her the support she needs. It serves adults and children. Um, it's a voluntary program. It's person centered for mental health and substance use. By being person centered, you're allowed to make choices about what you want your care to look like. Um, the really cool thing about it is you get to have multiple services. So you get skills, whether that's different groups, there can be individual skills peers that you can work with. You can have multiple therapies. You can have peer support. Um, and like I said, it can be life saving. Um, that program's ran through Dane County Human Services and other county human services programs. There are also multiple programs through Dane County Services that you can learn about through their behavioral health resource team. Um, NAMI Dane County and their resource guide has many resources. NAMI itself has peer recovery groups, family support, education, parent peer support. There is a NAMI warm line that is available also. Um, Dane County, the NAMI Dane County Resource Guide has many resources for Dane County and surrounding areas. Some of those great county resources for mental health are Journey Mental Health, um, There is a 24-hour line there for crisis. 988 is a great crisis number to talk through your crisis with. Um, Dane County has a mobile crisis team, and so does the city of Madison. And then some shelters and community centers have crisis teams or other organizations that help provide crisis services. Um, so now I'm going to ask for some reflections, questions, anything like that. Um, I want you to think about like one support you want to strengthen or one new support you'd like to try. You can drop them in the chat if you want. Um, are there any questions? Quinn?
Not yet, but I do want to thank you, Alika, for, of course, for reminding us, no matter what walk of life we're at, that kind of taking stock of who our support systems are and that we're tapping into the different areas in our life from family and friends to our community support and to our professional support and making sure that, we are all well-rounded and and making sure that we are cared for and nurtured for.
And I think it really makes a difference for everybody. When you have multiple supports in different areas of your life, it really helps to living that authenticity too. Everybody deserves support, and sometimes we think we can do it all by ourselves, and we're stronger if we do. But everybody deserves people to show up for them, and nobody has to heal alone. I think that's really important to remember. So, with community services, with county services, with peers, with families, that's how we find recovery and that's how we grow. And I've seen it happen firsthand in my life. I see it happening in my daughter's life. I see it happening in peers with I work with and peers that are just friends of mine. When you have community, it makes life so much easier.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And like I always like to say, is that we're pack animals and we need our tribe around us, no matter how uncomfortable it can be, whether we have to, like you put it, weed out most of our relationships and start all over in our garden.
Well,
Um,
and we talk
that's
about a
something we
village for
need.
kids, but adults need villages too. We need a village. We really do. So Dane County has some great crisis cards. Here is one of our crisis cards with some different crisis information on it. If you go to our website, there's links to all of our workshops that we'll be doing. There's links to our Saturday morning yoga we'll be doing this winter. And there's also links to peer support. My email's directly there. Um, Please email me or call the office. We can set up a time to talk if you have questions. If you just want to know, hey, how does this work? Like, how do I build this support system? Or if you want me to be part of your support system, please, please reach out to myself or Sharon, our other peer support. Um, any questions yet or anything?
No questions, but I do want to remind everyone our next workshop for our workshop series will be next Thursday, December 18th, and it's planning for the future. So, and developing a RAP plan, so a wellness recovery action plan. So, as we enter a new year, thinking about who we surround ourselves with and also setting goals and kind of how do we want to take care of ourselves as we come into as we transition into a new time, a new year, please join us in our peer support specialist, Sharon Rapnicki, leading the Planning for the Future session next week. But yeah, I want to thank
And the
everyone.
really interesting thing about the RAP plan that Sharon will be teaching about is that a lot of it has to do with really building these supports um, and what it looks like in your life. That's the best way to stay out of crisis.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out to Quinn or I or Sharon or anybody else at Nami-Dane County. Um, we also support Sauk County, Columbia County, and Richland County. So if you need any of our services, whether it's education or support, please let us know.
All right. Thank you. And everyone have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.